Have you got your eyes set on WebAssembly, or is the physics stuff a foray into that?
It's a very interesting technical question, and there's a lot of fairly difficult trade-offs involved in that. In short, it might not necessarily be faster. JavaScript is incredibly fast these days. We've actually done benchmarks that shows it can outperform some competitors with native engines. And I think that's one of those perception issues that we still deal with. People assume web stuff is slow or JavaScript is slow, and it's not. It was the case several years ago, but things have changed now. WebAssembly can be, but isn't necessarily faster than JavaScript. And then if you write code in a different language and compile it to WebAssembly, it significantly, in my view, that would significantly complicate the development workflow. So now you have a compile step and you're writing code in a different language and debugging is more complicated. Whereas in JavaScript, you have really great browser developer tools and there's no compile. You just write code and you reload the page. So I think it's an interesting idea, and it's good for things like the physics engine, but I don't think it's necessarily a good idea to broaden that out into everything else, especially when you've already got JavaScript code.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I look at things like Figma and look at that because that's built in WebAssembly, and think the sort of functionality there is not necessarily faster. It's more so what is capable. What are we capable of doing within WebAssembly? And I'm just baffled at some of the stuff we can do with
Well,
that.
that's part of the thing is if you want to be productive, really you want a shallow technology stack. And I'm a big believer in simplicity and having as few moving parts as you possibly can. It simplifies it, it makes you more productive, and it makes it easier to make sure things work. So I don't think we don't have any ambition to sort of compile the entire engine to WebAssembly, but there may be bits and pieces. So WebAssembly is good for picking off a component which needs maximum performance, like a physics engine, and just being used for that and integrating with JavaScript. So if we added a new feature which needed like a really high performance, like single bit, that could work in WebAssembly. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be that JavaScript would be perfectly good for that.